Twitter India's troubles seem to be never ending. Yesterday, Delhi police paid a visit to the offices of Twitter India in Delhi and Gurgaon. The point of contention were a few tweets that were labeled by Twitter as manipulated media. Now, these tweets contained the recently discovered toolkit on social media, which has been alleged to have links with the Congress, to have been created by the Congress. While it's hard to prove or disprove that if the toolkit really belongs to the Congress, I did an article recently on Swarajya collaborating all the aspects mentioned in the toolkit and defining how they were already in practice by the Congress leaders and many other supporters of the Congress. I'll put the link in the description. So that's the only argument you can make right now, that if the toolkit has any link to the Congress or not. But that wasn't the point here. The point of Delhi police paying a visit to Twitter India's offices was that do we hold accountable when it comes to someone labeling the tweets as manipulated or censoring information in India? Who is the go-to person? Who is the one where the buck stops? And that is what perhaps the Delhi police were trying to decipher. And this is the topic I want to discuss today. Right now, the scope of our discussion is limited to Twitter, the government, the toolkit, but we need to expand the horizon a little bit. Let's talk about the big tech interference. Let's talk about the consequences of big tech interference in the national politics. Now, the first thing is the Sambit Patra tweet. He wasn't alone to put out the toolkit. A lot of other handles had done that. He put out the tweet. Twitter labeled it as manipulated media. The government wrote to Twitter. Instead of responding and correcting itself, Twitter went on and further added the tag of manipulated media to 5 other BJP leaders' accounts who had tweeted out the toolkit. Now, this is where the problem began. Now, this toolkit is very sensitive in nature. If you go through my article, which I just spoke of, the toolkit is very sensitive in nature with the kind of allegations it wants to make, with the kind of image posturing it wants to do. And it certainly has a lot of political context to it. So to just say that it's manipulated media without any party being able to prove or disprove, both the BJP and the Congress, the onus lies on the BJP to prove that it is from the Congress, and for the Congress, which has been alleged very strongly, and their actions have also sort of complemented what contains in the toolkit, the onus lies on them to disprove that this is not their toolkit. So both the parties have essentially failed. So what gives Twitter the right to just jump in this political feud and label one side as manipulating and the other side is given a clean sheet? That's the first problem. The second problem is the method. Now, there are some speculative reports, I can't confirm them, that there was a certain third-party fact-checking organization which called the toolkit as fake, and on the basis of those reports, Twitter India labeled the tweet as manipulated one. Now, here's the problem. First thing, how does Twitter conduct a fact check if it does at all? Does it have an internal agency? Fair enough. It has an internal agency within the team. What is the process that is followed? Are the political contexts taken into account? Is their entire team, can they claim to be politically neutral? What is the procedure for a selection process? How does Twitter India decide what tweets it wants to fact check, which ones it does not? Now, if it doesn't have an internal agency, let's assume it impanels a third-party fact-checking organization, as many are speculating in this case. What's the procedure to select this fact-checking organization? How's the political inclination or neutrality of this organization determined? What are the bases on which this fact-checking organization is impaneled to work with Twitter, which is such a huge company and such an important company in terms of official communication, not just for social media networking? These are the questions that have no answers right now. There is no transparency in the process. Twitter tells us that this is how we do it and we are supposed to believe that way. And this reminds me of the suspension period of President Donald Trump. Remember back in January, the US Capitol riots had occurred. Donald Trump's Twitter account had been suspended. And what happened then? Jack Dorsey wrote a very interesting thread and he made this 2 startling points that stayed with me. One point was that if people do not like the rules on the platform, they're free to choose some other platform. He was very clear that if you do not like the rules of Twitter, go find some other platform to tweet. Fair point. And the second point was very, very interesting. He said that it might come across that Twitter censoring information is the equivalent of government censoring information. It might look like that. The perception might be that. But it's not the case. So Jack Dorsey was very conveniently excusing himself, saying that, look, the government cannot censor information because they are the government. But we, while censoring the government's information, in that case the president, can do it because we are a private company. So this was a very startling point he made when he wrote that thread after the suspension of President Donald Trump. Now, is this acceptable as an excuse? No, it's not. Well, Twitter is not just a social media app. It's not a Tinder. It's not Clubhouse for now, for instance. It's a very important app. Governments across the world are using it. Diplomats across the world are using it. Law enforcement agencies are using it. Local leaders are using it. People are using it to communicate their grievances. It's for SOS calls. It's for so much. So for Jack Dorsey to simply excuse himself, oh, we're just a company. We can censor whatever we want. The moderation rests upon us. Doesn't work that way. And even if he wants to moderate the content, which is not the worst idea, there has to be a uniform method to label or monitor or censor every tweet if it has to be on the same parameters. You cannot have certain parameters for one party's tweet, certain parameters for other party's tweet, then a different set of parameters for someone else. It has to be a very uniform process. Now, the problem here is that there are 200 billion tweets made in one annual year, one calendar year. 200 billion tweets. So either you need a great amount of artificial intelligence, which is so evolved that it can fact check every tweet that is made, or you simply have to let the platform be. This is the challenge for Jack Dorsey, really. Now, the process. Let's say there was a process followed in the Sambit Patra case. Let's assume. Did Twitter India reach out to Sambit Patra? Was there an attempt made to contact Sambit Patra? Was there a warning given to him? Was there a warning issued to him to take down the tweet? Nothing at all, just labeled manipulated media. Now, the problem here is a lot of social media platforms, even Google, Facebook for that matter, they've started talking about hate speech, and hate speech is indeed a problem. People are violent online. People are very cruel with their words online. So a lot of people are now talking about monitoring hate speech, censoring hate speech. But here's the problem. Where do you draw the line? I understand Facebook and Twitter and platforms like these, they want to be an editor. But where do you draw the line? Now, in January, February, a lot of tweets were made which were against vaccine. I remember Samajwadi Party leader saying, this is a BJP vaccine. We'll come and make an SP vaccine which will be administered to everyone else. That wasn't labeled as manipulative. That wasn't rather censored, given the social media platforms have been so mature in their dealing with the information pertaining to the pandemic. There was so much fake news against the vaccine process, about the procurement, about the doses, about the side effects they could have. Lots and lots of fake news. Nevertheless, none of those tweets were censored. So one really starts to think, is there a political stance Twitter is trying to take by, reaching out for only certain leaders or certain parties? And it's not just about Twitter. I've spoken about big tech in the beginning. What if Google and Apple tomorrow, by virtue of the monopoly on the mobile app stores, say, oh, we won't let this app be on a platform because it violates our political inclinations, because it might be manipulative. They did that to Parler. Remember, in January, both Google and Apple actually removed Parler from their app stores in America. So this has already happened. But what if this continues on? What if tomorrow a party's app is removed from these Play stores or an app store because certain fact checker thinks that, hey, look, these parties can be manipulative? What do we do then? What if Facebook tells an individual, a company, a group, a political party tomorrow, hey, you cannot run an ad campaign on my platform because your ad campaigns are probably manipulative in nature? I mean, come on, everyone makes fake promises during the elections. It's not like all the promises are fulfilled. So by that logic, all the election manifestos are manipulative. So can Facebook say, okay, we will ban any ad promotion of political parties? But what if they do to just one party, as Twitter is doing now? That's the problem. What if Instagram says that, oh, look, we won't allow you to live stream anything. We won't allow you to go live because you might be manipulative. You might be, not that you are. What happens then? See, where do you draw the line? What if Google tomorrow in its search engine starts amplifying certain voices it might agree with, or the fact checker might agree with, and starts censoring voices which the fact checker might say is manipulative? Eventually, it's all boiling down to a fact checker who might have some political inclinations of their own. And this is where big tech interference will start proving to be problematic in any nation's politics. Because when you label tweets like this as manipulated media, you're giving an impression that the one party is actually manipulative while giving the other party a complete clean chit. That is problematic, and this cannot be allowed. At the end, the platforms need to be intermediaries in their true sense. It has to exist as a platform, as a means of communication. It cannot be the editor itself, unless and until it finds a way to fact check, cross verify, validate all the 200 billion tweets made in a year. That's the problem. Now, what should the government do? It's not been spoken about much, but the government of India made a very brave move by banning Huawei from 5G trials. It was a big move to ban the world's biggest 5G company from 5G trials in India. So if they can do that to Huawei, they can do that to Twitter as well. But no, the ban is not an option. People might just go a little overboard and say, oh, let's ban Twitter. Not at all. But what needs to be done? Should the government now start regulating social media platforms? Absolutely not. Because regulation by one platform cannot be answered by regulation from the government. What the government needs to do is to find a way via legislature, via some sort of an understanding which is formalized, which is on paper, which is transparent, and which is in public domain, to ensure that platforms do not become editors. No, neither the platform nor the government should be regulating speech on any social media platforms. Of course, the hate speech needs to be reported, and even that should be done through specific or relevant law enforcement agencies. But to have government regulating the social media sites, because the social media sites are now regulating the individuals, that's going to be problematic. That's like going down a spiral hole with no end to it. That's the problem. But for now, we need to start seriously talking about big tech's interference in national politics. We saw what happened with the Republican Party in the run-up to the US elections. We saw what happened to President Donald Trump, and a strong critical voice of the opposition right now, given we have the Biden government in the White House. He's been censored on Twitter. That's the problem. What if tomorrow out of power politicians are just simply not allowed a voice on any social media platform? And in a country which will have 1 billion internet users by 2023, this situation indeed looks problematic. And this is why the problem of big tech interference and even the prospects of those interferences should be nipped in the bud right away. Thank you.